Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and you are listening to Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, on this beautiful Friday, November 17th, coming to you right here from Lubbock, Texas, in the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios, and on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. Hope you guys had a fantastic week. We've had a great week here. It's Friday night. What else would a guy want to be doing on a Friday night at 6 o'clock besides being with you right now on the radio and on Facebook and YouTube and X and sharing information about health and wellness? I can't think of anything better to do. That's why I'm here. So I'm glad to be here. I hope you guys are having a good week out there. I hope you had a great week. Hope you learned some things about health. Hope you made some money. I hope you made the world a better place. Hope you taught some kids something. Hope you took care of something, did something out there that made the world a better place. And now we can just talk about some health. We've had a really interesting week on the show. The last two nights we've been breaking down the chapter 5 from The Body by Bill Bryson. And I know that it's sometimes breaking those books down, especially that book, because we're just doing chapter by chapter, can be a little bit boring. But we there's just some cool stuff in there. I just think that's such a great book. I think it's a lot of fun listening to reading it, and it's just we've just done. It's just they're just like every line has more information for us that we can learn from. So he's funny. It's a great book. And so maybe if you watch the last two nights show, the shows on the last two nights, maybe you could get something from that. And then we started the week with perseverance, and we've persevered again. We've made it through another week, and I hope you guys have persevered out there. You know, that whole idea of temptation gets us all the time, and it never fails. It's something that we here in the office we just talk about over and over and over again. It's really interesting. It's the working on your why, developing your why, trying to figure out what you're all about, trying to figure out how do you get through the things that you get through. And all this stuff, I said it this week already, but all this stuff that we talk about on the show are things that we talk about in the office. I had a good 15, 20-minute conversation earlier today about the body keeps the score. And one of my patients revealed to me that they had gone through some really stressful times when they were young, and their dad had died in a plane crash, and it kind of created a whole disruption for their entire family and their mom and their sister. And I said, "Have you ever heard of that book, The Body Keeps the Score?" And she had not. And I kind of gave her the quick rundown on it real quick, and she was like, "That is so amazing. That's so amazing that is exactly what my daughter's gone through," or whatever she said. And then we had a nutritional report this afternoon, and that person had gone through lots of stuff in their lifetime, that with their own personal health, with losing loved ones, losing a spouse, trying to figure out how to navigate the world, and then you see how that affects a person's health. You just see how that, like, all those things that we have to persevere through, it just shows up. It just shows up here in the office over and over and over again. And I know that each one of you that are out there are persevering through things. I know that each one of you out there, if someone would spend a little time and just try to share some information with you that gave you a little bit more information about health and wellness in a way that you might could understand it, it would help you live a better life. And sometimes it's one of the saddest things for me is hopelessness. When people are out there and they're just feeling hopeless, they just don't think there's any chance that they're ever going to get better, and they just don't think there's any chance that they can figure out a way to get out of the whatever the issue is that they've got. And one of the things that they teach us in chiropractic school on the very first day is that you have an innate intelligence that runs your body. And I'm not going to get into that whole thing. We've done shows on that before, but if you put your body in an environment that's congruent with health, your body will express health. And if you're not expressing health, you still have a chance to express health if you can get your body into an environment to express health. And so I just think that it's really important not to give up on things, even though you're going through situations that seem unwinnable. You're going through situations that you just don't know how it's possible to get out of this situation. And that's where perseverance comes into play. And that's where the fundamentals of going back and defining your why is a big deal, right? That's why I keep going back to the same things over and over and over every week. So I really want to encourage you with the show. I really want to encourage you to take the things that you're getting out there. One of the things that I do when I'm trying to study and I'm trying to learn if someone is telling me the truth or if they're giving me good information, number one, I try to listen to them for hours and hours and hours if I can. If they put anything out on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, anywhere that I can watch them in videos or whatever, or if I can read their book or listen to their book or whatever, I'll try to run through. Like I need a foundation somewhere out there to say, okay, I'm listening to this person speak, and they keep speaking over and over and over again, and they keep saying the same things over and over and over again, and in different settings on different days and different times and different topics. They always come back to that same thing that they keep talking about, and it's it's like that person really believes that what they're saying is true. Now, whether or not it's true or not, that's a whole nother thing. But they really believe that, and and so if you're listening to someone and they're always changing the deal, like you listen to them over a 6 month or a year period of time, or you go back and listen to some of the videos that they put out or some of the stuff that they're putting out when it comes to health, and it's like that's not what they said last year. That's not what they said last 6 months ago, or they're completely contradicting themselves. Well, you got. I think you kind of got to be careful with those kind of guys and those kind of people because it'll get you confused if you're because there's so much out there. There's so many people talking. So that's why I like to go to these books and read through these books and and like see if I can filter them through multiple sources. Like when I read The Body by Bill Bryson, is it telling me the same thing that I'm getting from the Master and his Emissary? Like, am I getting contradictory information, or am I getting something that is kind of overlapping? Are these guys telling me something that's coming from real truth, or is this just some sort of scheme that they're trying to catch me in? And so that's part of what we do with the book reviews. And so sometimes it's just we sit here and we read it. That's kind of what we did last night. We just sat there and read the book and over and over. So if you want to go back and watch that show tomorrow from last night, even as boring as it was, you can get something from it. You can get some of the information from it, and a lot of it is just information about your brain. It was I went by and saw my mom and dad before I got on the radio today, and my dad was telling me about a story. He said he saw a movie last night that it was on the Grit channel or whatever he watches, and he hadn't seen that movie since he was about 8 or 9 or 10 years old, and he'll be 80 years old here on December 8th. And he said he's been looking for it. He searched for it, and it just out of the blue just came on last night, and it was funny because he pointed to his head and he's like, it's just been trapped in there for 70 years or something, and he's like, I've been trying to find it. I knew where it was. I knew I knew it was in there. And he said it was just way back here somewhere in my brain that I remembered it. And he said, you like to talk about stuff like that. It's kind of funny because I do like to talk about stuff like that. I like to talk about stuff like that, and and because I think like it's like, why is it stuck in your brain like that? And how did it get there? And how do you keep it there? And how do those things how do those things work? How does your brain work? Those are things that I think are really interesting. So anyway, that's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing this week. Well, one of the articles I saw this just recently um, came from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and the title of it says reducing salt intake can reduce blood pressure. Study finds reducing salt intake can reduce blood pressure. Study finds hypertension or high blood pressure is the leading underlying cause of death worldwide, affecting more than 1.25 billion people. This is coming from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, including more than 100 million Americans. Most people worldwide eat more salt than recommended. So, is there a connection? Nearly everyone can lower their blood pressure, even people currently on blood pressure reducing drugs, by lowering their sodium intake. Reports of a new study from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, Vanderbilt University Medical Center, and Northwestern Medicine. Results were published in the Journal of the American Medical Association and presented at the American Heart Association Scientific Session in 2023, November 11th. A number of studies link high salt intake to high blood pressure and high risk of premature death and cardiovascular disease, including heart attacks and strokes, said Cora Lewis, MD, professor at the University of Alabama at Birmingham School of Public Health and co-investigator of the study. From previous trials, we know that lower sodium diets lowers blood pressure on average, but for reasons not yet clear, some people are more salt sensitive than others. So the trial was a study with young adults, co-led by Lewis. Middle-aged to older individuals in their 50s to 70s were placed on a high sodium diet, 220 milligrams per day, on top of their normal diet, and a low sodium diet, 500 milligrams total in a day, each for a week at a time. The study found that 70 to 75% of all participants, regardless of whether they were already on blood pressure medication or not, were likely to see a reduction in their blood pressure if they lowered their sodium in their diet. Overall, 72% of participants experienced lowered their systolic pressure on the low sodium diet. So, there's some debate about that, about whether or not it's a good idea to. I mean, like there's we sell some supplements here, and there's a lot of supplements that you might see now that have salt in them, and so it really is. You gotta be careful about how much output you're getting and how you get rid of salt. And then one of what happens inside the kidney is that water follows salt. So when you take a lot of salt, then you get a lot of water that you keep inside your body, because really the way the body was made, it wasn't made to um, to deal with a lot of salt. It would it you There wasn't a lot of salt in nature at the time that the body was made. So you needed to be able to, if you got a little salt, man, you needed to try to keep it. So your body keeps it. Well, the byproduct of that is that you increase your blood pressure because you also keep water. And when that happens, then your blood pressure goes up. So, and it's I was looking at that, and I thought it was kind of interesting because for a snack every once in a while I'll eat one of these RX bars, and I just looked on the back of the RX bar, and I just like, well, I just wonder how much sodium is in the RX bar, and it's 210 milligrams, or 9% of your recommended daily allowance is coming from this RX bar. So, you know, you start adding those things together, and if you're not careful, by the time you get through the end of the day, you've accumulated a lot of salt. And if that happens, you'll end up accumulating the high blood pressure. And so basically, this was saying that if you can decrease your sodium intake, then you can even decrease your blood pressure. And it's if you do that, it's equivalent to taking blood pressure medication. Now, obviously, we don't talk about whether or not you should take blood pressure medication or not. We just talk about whether or not everything that we talk about goes back to the subluxation, right? So we want to make sure that if you're out there and your blood pressure is high, then that can cause some problems for you over a long period of time. It you can deal with it for a while, and just like during exercise your blood pressure will go up, and it's not uncommon for your blood pressure to, the top number, the systolic number in blood pressure, it's not uncommon for it to get up there, 190 to 220, and even under a squat. They've done that. My friend Joe and Fraley and Ruidoso has taught me that. He said there were some studies done when a person is under a squat rack, and they're doing a squat and they check their blood pressure, that it can be super high, like even 300-400 on that number right there, super high. So the body has the capacity to deal with some high blood pressure for a while, for short term, but long term it really does create some problems for us. So you might just take that into consideration. The best way to get rid of salt is to um, sweat. Yeah, it caught me there for a second. The best way to get rid of it is to sweat. So that might be something that it, if you're not sweating, if you're not exercising, and you're not sweating, then that might be something. And you're eating a bunch of salt, you might end up with high blood pressure. I say that I use these kind of articles because I don't think we think about the idea. We're so quick to jump to a medication these days, and as soon as you have high blood pressure, it's just like, oh my gosh, I got to go to the doctor today, and I better get on high blood pressure pills. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't consult your doctor. You should consult your doctor, but I'm also saying that I would present for consideration also that you could say to yourself, man, I need to work on this. I need to put my body in an environment that's congruent with health. I need to start looking at all the things that I eat that have too much salt in them. And then I need to work on exercising myself and seeing if I can get rid of some of that salt by exercising. Then the supplements make sense. Then the different kind of things like element salts and all that sort of thing make sense. If you're working out, you're working your body, you're sweating, and you're balancing those things. Okay, that's great. It's definitely important to have salt. You got to have it. But if you got too much of it, that can be a problem right there. So I just wanted to share that article with you. I thought it was interesting. It's old stuff. I mean, it's not a new concept that we've got. Too much salt will cause your blood pressure to go up. That's not a new concept, but it's been around for a long time. So, but I did see it, and it's a recently new study that they've done, and I thought it was cool. So, another one is one of the things that I kind of just saw this again, and I was looking through something, and it just a reminder that if you've never heard of glutathione before, glutathione is your major antioxidant. And if you've ever, these days, we talked a little bit last night, I think, about the I was watching. I got to go home early, and I ended up getting to watch Quickly Down Under, the movie, because the girls on Wednesday night were after the show. They were at the holiday happenings, and so I was home by myself, and we don't get to watch westerns very much when the girls are at home. So I got to watch some western. I just picked as Quickly Down Under was on, and so I was watching that. But in the commercials, it was all about all these different kinds of drugs and things for Medicare people, and they're targeting. It's obvious who they're targeting right there. But they'll give you all kinds of magical pills and potions and lotions. We got this whole shot thing going on now to lose weight with, right? And it's like I get it. I get the people that want to do it, but it's just, man, you're just messing with some things that you're probably not going to want to enjoy down the road if that's the option that you're taking. But one of the things is just making sure that you understand that acetaminophen decreases intracellular glutathione. Glutathione is your major antioxidant. It's super important. We've talked about it in the past. Glutathione is the thing that helps protect your mitochondria, and your mitochondria is what creates the power to your cell. And so, one of the things that is really important to understand is that too much acetaminophen is going to decrease your glutathione, and glutathione is going to protect you and keep you healthy. That's that's super important. And if you are taking too much, you can look up on the. I think I had it somewhere. You can look up the 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 medications that have acetaminophen in them, and there's a bunch of them. It's like Tylenol and Excedrin, Nyquil, Dayquil, all that stuff. That um, let me see right quick if I can look that up, because I know that that'll be interesting to you. It's like there's a bunch of different ones that if so, and what happens is you end up with you double them up. You take one in the day, then you take another one in the day, then you end up with multiple ones as you go through, and um, and you'll have more than you need. You'll have more. Well, first of all, you don't need any of it, but by the time you finish your day, you'll have stacked it up on top of yourself so much that now you're really depleting. Because what happens is your liver uses that glutathione to detoxify you from the acetaminophen. That's why the pill doesn't last. You ever wondered why the pill only lasts a certain amount of time? Well, the reason it only lasts a certain amount of time is because your body's breaking it down and getting rid of it. It doesn't want it in there, and so the liver is trying to get rid of that stuff. And when it gets rid of it, it uses glutathione. Well, if you use up all the glutathione in your liver, then you'll end up stealing glutathione from other cells, and one of them is your lungs. And we're getting into the season of respiratory problems, and we need glutathione in our lungs. It's vitally important that glutathione in our lungs, because it's what protects us from a lot of those external viruses and bacteria and all kinds of stuff that tries to get inside our body through our lungs. And our I think we might have mentioned that before, but our lungs are one cell layer thick. And so when you're trying to get that oxygen through that cell wall, there it is right there. When you're trying to get that oxygen through that cell wall, you need that glutathione in there to protect yourself. And if you're taking too much Tylenol, or acetaminophen, and it's all these Alka-Seltzer Plus, some of these are old: Anacin, Cepacol, Contact, Dayquil, Dimetapp, Dristan, Nyquil, Robitussin, St. Joseph Aspirin Free, Singlet, Sinutab, Sudafed, Theraflu, Excedrin, Feverall, Formula 44, Goudy's powder, all those things, Vicks, Zicam, Vanquish. I don't even know these. We haven't bought any of this stuff in so long. I don't even know it. But all those things. So how many of us take Tylenol through the day and then end up taking NyQuil at night and do that for 4 or 5 days in a row? That's not a good thing right there. That'll cause you some trouble if you got too much. That I would really recommend for you to pay attention to that, because that's not the you got to be careful with that. And it's like, why are you as a chiropractor talking about that? That's kind of, you're not supposed to be talking about that stuff, right? Okay, I'm not talking about it from whether or not you should take Tylenol. I'm talking about it whether or not you should protect your glutathione, because your glutathione protects your mitochondria, and the mitochondria protects your cells. And your cells, when they die, your tissues die. And when your tissues die, then your organs die. And if your tissues die, you can create pressure on your nervous system, and that creates a subluxation. And so that's how it gets back to whether or not we should be talking about it. And that's what's so fun about my job, is I can dang near take it all the way back on all that stuff. And that's why that stuff, it's like, man, it's not candy. Tylenol is not candy. Acetaminophen is not candy. It's serious business, and you should treat it that way, or you may run into some trouble that you don't want to run into. And that's so there's like two little quick things right there, right? It's look, if you watch your salt intake, watch your blood pressure, because your blood pressure is important. And then be careful with how much acetaminophen you take, because you don't want to decrease your glutathione, and you don't want to run the risk of having mitochondrial dysfunction, because the mitochondria is the power plant of the cell. It's what makes the power. If I'm sitting here trying to talk to you on the radio tonight, and all of a sudden the power goes out in this building, my show's over. There's nothing else we can do with it, because I don't have any power to get to you, right? This whole thing, like, there's nothing we can do in a dark building tonight. It's done. I'm relying on power. I'm relying on power for these lights. I'm relying on power for this computer, this microphone, that camera. I have to have power. And if I destroy the power plant and the power goes off, all this stuff is going to stop. And that's what happens inside your cell. If you destroy that power plant, all that stuff is going to stop, and that'll be the end of that. So protect your mitochondria. Protect your mitochondria by protecting your glutathione, making sure you're getting it, making sure you're protecting it, and not wearing it out. We're going to take a quick break right quick, and we'll be right back. Yeah, so for you guys on Facebook, we've talked about that before. We say that a lot too. That sentence is used a lot on this show, and I know it is. I know it's used a lot on this show, because we're just going to keep stacking. That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep stacking it and stacking it and stacking it. But you don't want to deplete your glutathione, and because inside the cell, that's what protects your mitochondria. And we've talked about that before. And if you want to talk about, one of the things is really funny. I have an article. I'll go find it. I'll see if I can find it this weekend. But I have an article that talks about mitochondrial dysfunction and wrinkles. Now, do you know how many wrinkle creams and collagens and Botox injections and all those things that are going on across the world to try to get rid of wrinkles? I even saw a famous actress that, man, she was cute when she was young, and then now that she's old, I don't know how many facelifts and things that she's done to try to get rid of her wrinkles. And I thought, man, what a tragedy! Because, like, what happened? She was she was great and cute, and she didn't age very well. She didn't age very well because she didn't age naturally, in my opinion. But but we will drink collagen. We will buy some fancy deal to take. We'll mix some pill thing up. We'll do something. You know what I mean? Well, you know what I mean, because you know dang well you got that stuff in your house too, right? We'll do all that stuff to get rid of wrinkles, but we won't protect our mitochondria to get rid of wrinkles. We won't. We'll just take Tylenol like it's candy, and then we'll just be depleting our glutathione, and we'll deplete the intracellular glutathione. That's what the article says, right? The title: acetaminophen decreases intracellular glutathione levels. It's like okay, I mean that's right off the NIH, National Institutes of Health. Um, Benoit, German. No, that's not what that says. Yeah, but that's right off the National Institutes of Health. Acetaminophen decreases intracellular glutathione. Intracellular glutathione protects mitochondria. When your mitochondria die, you get wrinkles. It's like maybe you might not get wrinkles if you protected your mitochondria, and then you wouldn't have to take all that other stuff. It's an interesting thought. It's an interesting thought to try it that way. Hang on. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. And this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, on this Friday evening, November 17th. And right here from Lubbock, Texas, the Mecca of health and wellness. And so we're having a good time tonight. And so I wanted to spend the second half of the show, and I wanted to get into a couple of different thoughts. Um, and maybe right before I do that, let me see if I can if I can show you this picture. For those of you who are watching us on Facebook, let me see if I can show you this. Yeah. That is a mitochondria. That's what we're talking about right there is we're talking about a that's the power plant right there inside of your cell. And if you've never seen one before, that's what it looks like right there. And there's a bunch of stuff going on inside those little walls inside that mitochondria. That is the power plant inside your cell. And that is a crucial part of your health and wellness right there. Like that mitochondria is a big deal because you really need that power. We'd say that, and we laugh in the chiropractic world after we give someone an adjustment. A lot of times, some of us will say your power's on, and it's like, hey, your nervous system is free of interference. You're getting adjusted, like your power's on, and then all of a sudden, it's like there's that power plant right there. That's what we're trying to protect. And every time it makes an ATP, that little molecule, it also makes a free radical. And if that's what the picture is right there. And for you, if you guys listening to us on the radio, I got a picture of a mitochondria, and it shows the process inside the mitochondria. And then what happens is you get a free radical and an ATP that's made each time that goes through that process. And that's the ATP is the energy that we run off of. And the free radical is that dude is mad and it's fixing to turn around and attack that mitochondria. And so whenever that happens inside the cell, then the mitochondria will get damaged. And when the mitochondria get damaged, the cell doesn't function properly. And then the tissue doesn't function properly. And then you get wrinkles, right? You also get kidney disease, and you also get brain disease, and you also get heart disease, and all those other diseases that happen. Cancer, we did that whole show when we broke down the cancer is a metabolic process. Dr. Seyfried's book, right? That whole thing is talking about this thing called a mitochondria, and this mitochondria in a cancer cell, they know that mitochondria are damaged. And what they do is they open the glucose gate so that they're sucking sugar all day long, and they're trying to breathe because they're having a respiratory problem and they're trying to breathe. And so what happens is they actually send a signal to the nucleus of the cell and tell the cell, hey, don't kill us, don't create apoptosis just yet, don't kill us. We're trying to fix this problem. And then they kick the glucose gate open, and they stick the doorstop in the glucose gate. And then now all of a sudden, anytime you eat sugar, you just feed that cancerous cell over and over and over again. And then that dude turns into a tumor, and then pretty soon it's out the gate, and you're in trouble, right? So that's not what we want. We want to protect those mitochondria. So one of the things that we do in our office is, and I know you've heard this a lot of times, but what the heck? It's Friday night. We'll just talk about it some more. One of the things that we do in the office is we test your omega-6-3 ratio. And I just wanted to show you some of these tests because I don't think some people understand them. And I want to make sure I do a really good job of explaining it to you so that you understand how important it is. I had a patient this week. She started on her fish oil. And so she came in and she said, I said, how's your fish oil going? And she said, oh, I had to stop that stuff because it was just giving me acid reflux. I was just burping that up. It was horrible. And I just kind of paused and I thought, and I was like, all right, I got to figure out a solution for her because I got to figure out a better way to get her omega 3s because the, the, let's just kind of break that down right there. The idea of why were you taking the omega 3s in the first place? Well, what she didn't understand is that she had no idea why she was taking the omega 3s in the first place. So as soon as they created a little bit of backlash for her, she just dumped them. She just decided, no way am I going to take those omega 3s anymore because they gave me acid indigestion, right? And I don't have indigestion because I take a pill for that, is what she told me. She takes medication for indigestion, some sort of whatever it is, Pepsid or whatever the thing is, right? Nexium or whatever that thing is for indigestion. And so she takes that and she wasn't able to digest her omega 3s. And her omega 3s are what protect her mitochondria because it helps protect your glutathione. It gives you the chance to build glutathione inside the cell. Like all those things are connected. So when she stopped taking that, what she's telling me is that she doesn't understand why she's taking it in the first place. And we don't really we don't really understand why we're taking it. So we try to talk about why we're taking it, the fish oil. Why would you be needing fish oil? Like what is the point? Well, inside the cell, that cell wall, we're looking for a 3-to-1 or less ratio. We'd like for it to be 1-to-1, but a 3-to-1 or less ratio will work. And and so that's a big deal over a long period of time is what is your ratio? And so I just wanted to show you a couple of tests that we've done. 3 different patients. I just wanted to show you a pre and post test of some of the patients that came in and where they were when they started, and then what happened in the time frame. And these are the exact tests and what happened in the time frame between the two. So because every one of us will go get our blood work done and we'll want to know the numbers on our blood work. I bet you the majority of you can tell me that have had your blood work done what your cholesterol is or what your A1C is or what your any of your numbers, right? You could just pick your numbers, where your thyroid. I have people come in all the time and they tell me all of those things. And almost no one can tell me what their 6:3 ratio is. They've never tested it. They never even heard of it. The doctor that they go see never even heard of it. And so when a person comes in, like this first one on August 8th, 2023, a person comes in on August 8th and we just prick their finger. We do a little blood draw. We send it off. They give us the results. They send it back to us. I just want to show you right here the arachidonic acid to EPA level. The arachidonic acid is the inflammation. Like that's exactly what happens. Arachidonic acid goes to inflammation. That when you have too much arachidonic acid, your body is going to use your COX enzymes and it's going to turn that into inflammation. And your EPA is what you get from your fish oil and it's anti-inflammatory. So that ratio right there is a vital ratio. So when this person came in, she came in and her ratio was 20-to-1. It was 20-to-1. What we're looking for is a 3-to-1 or less ratio. And her ratio was 20-to-1. And that was on August 8th of 2023. Well, on September 11th, so August, I mean, I don't even know. I can look it up. August 8th, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. In 5 weeks, she came back and she got retested. And then in 5 weeks, just by taking her fish oil, like we recommended, just like getting a bottle of fish oil, just taking her fish oil. Now all of a sudden, her arachidonic acid to EPA ratio is 1.6 to 1. It's almost perfection right there when it comes to inflammation versus anti-inflammation. Now I know every one of us at this point understand that inflammation is involved in almost every disease process that we have in some form or fashion. Like there's going to be some sort of inflammatory response. And if not, all these chronic things, right? All these like arthritis is anything that's an itis. Arthritis is inflammation, right? And there's a lot of that happening in our world. Our brains get inflamed, our hearts get inflamed, our blood vessels get inflamed, our our kidneys get inflamed. Like everything, we've got inflammation running rampant. It's not running rapid; it's running rampant. So, yes, this person, one person, went from 20 to 1 to 1.6 to 1 in 5 weeks. Totally decreased their arachidonic acid to EPA level, their inflammatory to anti-inflammatory level. Got it down to where they're supposed to. Now she just needs to let that run. Now that she's got it under control and she's feeling great and she's doing great and she's just loving the process and she's doing fantastic, and it's right there in obvious to us what it is. Here's another one that came in, and she wasn't as bad when she started. She came in on May 25th, 2023, and she wasn't as bad when she started. She was only 13.9 to 1. So, but still, she was over 10 to 1. And so she got on the program and she came back on October 17th. So a little bit longer time. She lives out of town and she came back and now she's at 3.3 to 1. So she dropped 10 points. She went from a 13.9 down to 3.3. She's right where she wants to be now. Now she just lets that run, right? And then this last one that I wanted to show you, she came in on August 17th, and so about 6 weeks, I guess, maybe 7 weeks. She came in on August 17th, and she had a 41.8 to 1 arachidonic acid EPA level, like 48 to 1. That's not good. That's not good at all. That's a lot of inflammation in the body. She got on the program and she started taking her fish oil and she dropped to 2.3 to 1 in that period of time. On October 12th, she came in to see us and she had dropped from 41.8 to 1 to 2.3 to 1. She had decreased her inflammation simply by taking her fish oil. Like, how many times do you go to the doctor for arthritis medication? How many times do you go in and say, "Man, I got inflammation in my knees. I got inflammation in my shoulder." And it's like, "Well, have you thought about taking any fish oil?" "No, man, that stuff is nasty. I'm not going to take that. I just seen take an NSAID. I'll just take some Tylenol." I'll just take some acetaminophen, right? So, isn't that the conversation that we have? I'll just eat some sugar and take some acetaminophen and I'll just be fine. I'll just have my donuts and my acetaminophen, and then that's all I need to get rid of my inflammation. It's like, hold up, boss. Maybe it would be better. I'll just present for your consideration that you could get rid of the donuts and you could get rid of the acetaminophen and you could take your fish oil and you could get rid of your inflammation and you could decrease your joint pain. That's what you want, right? That's what you're after. You can decrease the inflammation in your brain. What did Dr. Bredesen say in the very first book review on the end of Alzheimer's? Man, got to get that inflammation out of that brain. So that EPA is anti-inflammatory, and the other part of that fish oil is DHA, and that DHA is the part that helps brain's synapses and helps build serotonin and dopamine and all that stuff inside the brain. It's crucial for the way that your brain functions. And so that's if If you don't know, it's $60 for a test. If you don't know what your omega 6 3 ratio is or what your arachidonic acid level is, you can come by and talk to Kim, and we could do the test for you. If you're listening anywhere in the world, and I'll send you a test kit, and we can do it, and we can check it, and then I'll go over it with you. So if you're listening to this show and you're in England or you're in India, or it doesn't matter, it doesn't make any difference what country you live in. It doesn't matter where you are on the planet. It doesn't matter that we all have the same need to balance that 6:3 ratio. It's not an American issue. It happens to all of us, and it's been going on from the beginning of time. If you can get that ratio down, you have a really good chance of achieving health and wellness. Like, you're on the road to health and wellness. And let me show the other side of that. If you do not get that ratio down, I had a conversation with one of our gals this week, and her ratio is 60 to 1. And so she has a 60 to 1 ratio, and she's got all kinds of problems going on with her. Her blood pressure keeps dropping. She's had asthma forever. She's on an inhaler. She's allergic. She's food allergies out the wazoo. Like, she's got all kinds of stuff going on. She's allergic to beef. She's allergic to all kinds of foods, and she's a real tiny thin girl. She's not a big girl at all, and she's been to doctor after doctor after doctor. That she's been wearing this thing on her heart for a week to try to figure out why her heart's not right. She's been trying to figure out why she can't breathe, why she's all of the things. And one of the things that she said to me, was, I asked her if she'd gotten COVID, and she said yes, twice. And she said, I responded. I was kind of an outlier in the way that I responded, because I responded just like big, heavy, inflamed people. She didn't use inflamed. Big, heavy people did. All those people that really got in trouble with COVID, the ones that really had a hard time with COVID, I responded just like they responded. And that's the thing I said from the very first day that all started, is it's an inflammatory process. It's inflammation inside the whole. I don't even know if we've gone over that on this show or not, but my take on it, from what I can understand about how it works, right, is that if you're inflamed, then I'll run through it just for a second. I may have already run through it, but hey, it's Friday night. We ain't got nothing else to do. I'll just do it again, and you might think it's cool. Let me see. See if I can do it real quick. Inside the lung, you have neutrophils and macrophages and white blood cells. I'll just make it simple from that standpoint. You've got white blood cells inside the lung. And the white blood cells come in and out and in and out and in and out. They travel through your bloodstream, and they go into the tissue. They're looking around for bacteria and viruses, and then they come back out. And they do that over and over and over again. And so the more inflamed you are, the more neutrophils you have in your tissue. So let me draw it like this. Let me just say, so let's draw a blood vessel. And really, the blood vessel is made up of little cells that are hooked together. And that's the way that blood vessel looks. It's got those little cells that are hooked together like that. And then let's draw the tissue over here. And let's just say that we have our lung and our alveolar sac that's here. And then that's open. So when you breathe in, oxygen is coming in right there and coming into that sac, and it's hitting that lung. And you've got these little cells. There's your one cell layer thick. It's just one cell layer thick inside there. And so if you scratch your finger, you scratch your hand with your fingernail, you make a little mark, nothing happens, just kind of takes some of the skin off, right? If you scratch that sac like that alveolar sac, if you were to do that with your finger, you would you'd poke a hole in that sac because there's only one cell layer thick. And guess what it's got all over it? It's got glutathione, glutathione, glutathione all over it because that's the protector. That's the protector inside that cell that's going to keep, that's the Marines on the wall right there. That's the Marines on the wall to protect you from anything that gets inside, some sort of virus or whatever that gets inside. Well, inside the blood vessel, you've got neutrophils that are floating around in here. And what they do is they float around, they go through the cell wall, they look around, see if there's any bacteria or viruses, and then they come back into the bloodstream, and then they float around and they come through this side and they look around to see if there's any bacteria or viruses, and then they float back into the bloodstream. And they're doing that all over your body. All over your body. You got your white blood cells protecting you like that. And they're in and out, right? Well, if one of these floats through that little area, and all of a sudden you get some sort of virus that's coming inside your lung and it's trying to attach to that cell, then what the body wants to do is the body wants to keep the fight right there. The body wants to say, hey, you can't come in here. We got glutathione on the wall, and then all of a sudden our white blood cells are we're fixing to have an attack. And if you have a strong initial attack, you'll have a weak secondary attack, and that's what you want. So we're going to have this attack that's going to happen right here. And as soon as that battle starts right there in that lung, that neutrophil is going to release this thing called a cytokine. And the cytokine is a chemical, and the chemical is going to, it does two things. Number one, it goes to the brain. It goes up to the brain to tell the brain to turn the temperature up. Because those white blood cells, they love 102 degrees, but they hate 98. They don't hate it, but they don't work as good at 98.6 as they do at 102. So that cytokine is going to do that. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to send a signal back into the bloodstream to try to get as many of these neutrophils as it possibly can to come help on the fight. It's going to say, hey, we need some help. You guys hurry. Come on. Come help me. And so now these white blood cells are going to start to go through that blood vessel wall right there. And when they go through that blood vessel wall, they have to like morph themselves. That they have to, there's a cell and then there's a cell, and what they have to do is they have to like change shape and squeeze between those two cells to get through in between those cells. And when they get through between those cells and they're coming around on all the sides right there, plasma leaks with them. Plasma that's in the bloodstream leaks inside with those neutrophils, right? So that's why your lungs get fluid in them and you can't breathe. And so you start to put a little bit of fluid inside that lung because that plasma is leaking in through there and it's getting into that lung right there. Okay, so Jason, what are you talking about? What I'm talking about is this. A person that is inflamed, a normal person is going to have an X number of, let's just call them white blood cells. They're going to have an X number of white blood cells, which means they're going to release an X number of cytokines, which means they're going to get an X amount of plasma in the lung. So however much a normal healthy person is going to get inside their lung is going to be based on the number of white blood cells that attacks right there. Okay, an inflamed person, someone who has lots of inflammation, is going to have 100 times that many. Like all of a sudden, the tissue, go to the National Institutes of Health, just Google, just search it. Do white blood cells increase in inflamed tissue? The answer is yes. Or does inflammation increase white blood cells in the tissue? The answer is yes. It doesn't matter how you Google it, you'll find it. Inflammation increases neutrophils in the tissue. Yes. If the more inflammation you have, the more immune response you're looking for, because inflammation is the beginning stages of the immune response. So what happens is now you have 100 times the white blood cells, which means you have 100 times the cytokines, which means you have the 100 times the plasma, and your lungs fill up, and now it's really, really hard to breathe, and you can't breathe anymore. So that's we've hit the end of the show. I apologize for that. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you guys on Monday. I'm going to finish this with you guys on Facebook. The, the the idea right there is now you get 100 times the plasma. If you have 100 times the neutrophils because you're inflamed, then you're going to have 100 times the plasma, which means you're going to get all of this. You're going to get all this filling up inside there of that alveolar sac, and you're not going to be able to breathe. So think about that whole process right there. Like if that sac is full of water, it's full of plasma. Now you can't get any breath. So the more inflamed you are, the more increase of inflammation you have, then the more response you're going to have from your immune system, your neutrophils and your macrophages, the more response you're going to have, and the more response you're going to have is what's going to cause that problem right there. So, how do I know if a person is going to have a bad response to a respiratory virus or a better response to a respiratory virus? You know what I would do? I would go look at their omega 6 3 ratio. I would go and say, hey, what is your arachidonic acid to EPA ratio? Well, this girl's is 60 to 1, and our desired is 3 to 1. Of course, she's going to have a bad. Go back and look at all the people that had bad response to the respiratory virus that we just went through. Go back and look at what was going on with them. I guarantee you, they were. This person is a young, skinny, fit-looking woman, and she had a bad reaction. And how many times did we hear, "Oh, there's no healthy people that are having trouble with COVID?" And I'm like, "Yes, that's 100% true. Healthy people don't, because healthy people don't have a 60 to 1 arachidonic acid to EPA ratio. They may look healthy, they may look thin, they may not be on any medications because they don't have any other things going on, but they're inflamed. And that right there is the difference. And that's why one of my little ladies who was 2.3 to 1, I said, "You don't have anything to worry about when you get that virus, you'll be fine." And she was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "No, I'm 100% certain." And she went home. She got the virus. She was sick for 11 days, 10 days, whatever it was. She just stayed home for 2 weeks. She was fine. She was 75 years old. She was fine. How did I know she was going to be fine? Because she didn't have enough inflammation to be sick. Her lungs were not going to fill up. That's it's like, why why are you talking about that all the time? That's why I'm talking about it. It matters. It matters right there. When and it's so simple. It's so simple. Just go to Nature's Tonic, go to Drug Emporium, go to your local nutrition store, and tell them that you need some. Tell them you need some fish oil. And look, it's going to have EPA and it's going to have DHA. And you want to get your DHA. You really want that to be in a 2 to 1 ratio, and you want to get your DHA to 1,000. So you would have 2,000 of EPA, and together that would be 3,000 milligrams. That's what you're looking for right there. And if you do that, you will decrease. And if you're inflamed, take 5 of them. Get it up there. Like this in our office, the one we use, that's 3 pills. So take 5 pills. Like get up there over make it 4,000. Make it 5,000. Like it's going to be fine. Like take your fish oil get your EPA, arachidonic acid EPA level in balance, and see how much better your body functions. Hey, if you got any questions about this, you want to talk about it, you want to send me a message, you want to like you can send a message later on social media, or you can send us a message on at 806-794-0400, and I'll answer it, and I'll get back to you. And otherwise, thanks for watching the show. Thanks for sharing it with your friends. Thanks for spreading the word of health around the world. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you on Monday.